By the rivers of Babylon, where he sat down, and there he wept when he remembered Zion. For the wicked carry us away, captivity required from us a sound. How can we thinking of a song in a strange land? How can we thinking of a song in a strange land? So let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart be acceptable in thy sight, over What's up, y'all? Hope everybody's having a good day, a good week. Staying productive, enjoying the nice weather if you're down south, staying warm if you're up north. Speaking of which, can somebody please, seriously check on King Cobra JFS? I would have, and this isn't a joke or a bluff. I legitimately would have if Noel hadn't lied to me about hiring me as his registered agent in Casper, Wyoming. And he's taken the death of his friend Walt pretty hard, and it looks like he's going to end up in the hospital at this rate. So can somebody please check on him, please? And send the word. Seriously, he's not doing well. I've never seen him so swollen and disorganized. That's legitimately when Noel told me that he wanted to end. I'm number one. I'm his number one guy. Oh wow, I'm his number one guy. Noel told me that I was his number one guy, and I need to go to Wyoming to become his registered agent, which is something that he told me, and it's been confirmed by other people. Right hand to God. I wanted to go and help King Cobra JFS over in Casper because his front teeth were rotting out. You remember that? It was very, very severe. And he's been doing real good up until this recent point. And he's taken the death of his friend Walt really, really hard. So send him some love. Send him some good wishes. Somebody can check on him if they can. It's very cold at the moment. So, hey. We see you suffering. Brain, heart, spine, soul. It's by design. Hold fast. Change is coming. And I'm really not kidding about people getting happier and healthier under RFK Jr. It's coming. It's coming. I think the main difference between treachery and betrayal, treachery, 6th layer of hell, betrayal, 7th layer of hell, I think, or the 8th and 9th, I can't quite remember. I think it's the 8th and 9th, actually. But treachery is a higher, and betrayal is the lowest. I think the difference is treachery is abusing the good graces given freely to you, whether by God or by somebody else who cares. Grace is a gift given freely, and that's very similar to the relationship of Null and I, is that I gave it all freely. I never wanted any money. I told him, when I mentioned in chat that I don't want money, I just want justice, is exactly when he popped that little joke, which it wasn't very funny in retrospect because I literally packed all my stuff up and told people that I was moving to Wyoming. Yeah, ha ha, real funny. But betrayal is the violation of a noble covenant. A covenant is when two people enter into an agreement with each other. Whether the persona of God and the Israelites before the coming of Christ, when the Jews were to be reduced and Christ was to induce all of mankind into the kingdom of his Father in a singular covenant, Edo Domini. And this is similar to the free will exercised by Satan against his creator and sovereign, Lord Almighty. Betrayal is pretty bad. That's why Satan sits gnawing on the souls of Judas and a couple other guys from particularly specific parts of history that I can't remember. I think it's like Greek stuff, but the Judas was Brutus, Judas, and and another guy who doesn't rhyme. But yeah, treachery is about abusing the good graces given freely to you, and betrayal is a violation of a covenant entered into by both parties with a consensual agreement. So, treachery is still pretty bad. Something one should seek penance from if they have exercised such treacherous behavior in their life. All those Tier Zoo spin-offs, I used to watch Tier Zoo on YouTube a lot. The spin-offs, they're awful. And, pardon my French. And it's getting real Zionist. There's tons of animal abuse and blatant lying. It's a shame. You hate to see it, but you also see it with Rare Earth. Tons of lying as they get closer and closer to their Zionist buddies. I really have this deep feeling in my heart that the embarrassment of taking like pennies, because they love to save money, pennies on the dollar to carry forth the will of Zionists is going to bite a lot of people in the ass in the long run. Because like the people who are gullible enough to buy that will be scammed out of their ability to do anything. And then the growing amount of people that are aware of that are going to end up rising up against you while they run out the door with a bag like they did in like 110 different countries. Or probably closer to like 50 or 60, and then the other half was people who just like knew, osmosized that knowledge. Because there's legitimately tons, and they're called demies, where you go into underground in Islamic areas as a Kabbalist, Talmudist, pre-Zionist, Kabbalist, Talmudist. And that's where the Frankist guy came from. It's interesting, like, he completely broke his covenant to save his skin, to save his life. And that's the key to an unworthy covenant, is the fact that you're willing to break it at the cost of death, or less. And the guy was going to get killed by Muslims, so he converted to Islam after leading this Talmudic pedophilic and incest orgy cult in Poland. Isn't that great? It's exactly where the Weimar Republic like really gets its steam and ideas. You know what I'm saying? And the guy converted to Islam. That's really ironic. And the fact that he was allowed to convert to Islam is a huge mark, a negative mark on Islam's reputation and record. Like if you look up the nation of Karaman in southeastern Anatolia, the nation of Karaman had the Star of David blue and white flag as their nation's flag far before Israel materialized into this phantasm of a nation, which will evaporate just as quickly. It's not really a nation. It's not really a people with control of their nation. Like, all the people in Israel are just constantly like covering their ears as sirens and bombs blare all over the place. It's a terrible place to be. And I hate to see it, because that's like the lowest level of society that you could possibly. That's barely a society, not really a society, definitely not a commonwealth. And what you see is people reduced to barbarianism, and that's exactly why you everybody has so many bad experiences of dealing with Israelis, is because their society is so barbaric since 1978. And they made some semblance of an effort for 30 years while people were watching them very intently. But after that generation died off, the Boomer generation and Generation X welcomed them freely into the echelons of power. Not willing to learn history, unfortunately. And that's exactly how you get the Vietnam War. That's exactly how you get Afghanistan as an opium hub. And like, these are the opium traded out of the Golden Triangle, Chiang Kai-shek, and the Tonkin River pirates, and the Tajikistan and the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, Tajikistan region, selling a tremendous amount of heroin. Like, before we invaded Afghanistan, they were responsible for 8% of the world's opium production. After we invaded, 91 to 92% of the world's opium production. And a lot of that black market money was funneled through the Vatican. A lot of that black market money was utilized in child trafficking, in human trafficking, cocaine smuggling, crack distribution through the inner cities. That is exactly what you get when you forget your history. You feel me? And I'm really happy that YouTube allows me to actually speak on history and get a little upset and a little bit excited sometimes, and then not just ban me off their platform. They've really turned a new leaf. But in the end of the day, I've always respected YouTube as being more free than other places. You don't seem to have this, like, Jack Dorsey, Sauron's eye, like, allowing and preventing certain things specifically based on what they want to do so they can get a bunch of money. Google seems more decentralized, and it seems to follow more of a moral code of free speech with a limit. You know, I wouldn't say the hard R N-word because I would have no need to if I wasn't quoting somebody, but if I was quoting somebody, I've seen it, I've heard it, people can do it. You know, it's that simple. You just can't be an absolute idiot and do whatever you want, say whatever you want, quote people tossing you $5 to ruin your entire channel. Come on. Getting bunches of donations on YouTube, and then they throw it away for $5, and then you're off to the terrible parts of the internet. Have fun with that. It sucks that millions of dollars of taxpayer money and slave labor isn't enough for sheriffs. They have to torture and murder people while eroding public trust in law enforcement, too. And you know that Israel's been training our law enforcement since 9/11. Good old Patriot Act. We love to see it, don't we, folks? Things have been so much better since the Patriot Act. We're so much safer. It's not like we experienced, like, the biggest wave of drugs of all time since about the 90s when Bill Clinton and other governors and other politicians around the country and law enforcement around the country who didn't get killed by the Clintons, because they did legitimately kill law enforcement, like that state trooper that everybody talked about. But why? Why? So that they and NATO and Israel could all team up, distribute a bunch of heroin, because NATO was extremely involved in Afghanistan. And NATO, Nikolai Sarkovsky, the 2008 French president, was the one that helped Hillary Clinton coup Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. I'm going to chew on. Know your history. Don't repeat the same mistakes. I'm glad we've scrapped the UBI on trillions of dollars of welfare to corporation strategy that got me so mad with Andrew Yang. Oh, God, I hate Andrew Yang. Oh! And it's similar to that meme. You know, there's just like this little kid. Last time I saw it was Canada, and then the United States, just like bloodshot, like veins popping out, like teeth gritted. Oh, I hate you, I want to kill you. That's me and Andrew Yang. I always did a very good job with fractions in school. I even taught other kids fractions in school. This was my particular mathematical. I was really good at things like geography, really good at things like anatomy, but on most math, I struggled very hard, and I hate slopes. But I was really good at fractions. It's funny because you think that if you're good at fractions, you'd be good at slopes. Not the case for me. For whatever reason, not the case for me. Now let me get into this a little bit. I never knew why until I realized that fractions, despite oftentimes throwing up on real numbers, are the realest numbers. Especially when you go off of the like textbook Descartes definition of what a real number is. Go ahead and look up how 2/3 is a rational and real number despite infinite decimals. Some real numbers even have two definitions, like 1 or 0.99999 repeating. And in this way, fractions are a pragmatic realization of the fact that you can't necessarily use mathematics to divide what you could so easily divide with realistic adjustment to things. Now, there's probably some form of a Fibonacci sequence by which nature grows itself, and I would have to be much higher level mathematician to understand that, but I love to look at like the mathematics of the Fibonacci sequence, how it applies to growing stuff, and how fractions apply to growing stuff, and to what degree our mathematical laws follow nature. I pride myself in being far too schizoautistic to ever be captured by algorithm, which, since we're on the subject of math, was created by a 9th century Iraqi named Al-Khwarizmi in the Golden Age of Islam. Now, the Golden Age of Islam only popped up because they took a lot of the potential that Christendom could have done with the global covenant, all nations under God, then they allowed merchant routes, they allowed certain paganist beliefs, and we all know what Muhammad did later on in his life, that soured and destroyed the entire religion for all time, because now people will look at that and go, well, the prophet did it. And what did our prophet do? He suffered and he sacrificed. And it's super funny when you see people just like, and especially Jewish people, you know, because it's like, God, man, why do you have to like lie about and hate one of the greatest people ever just because he makes you look bad? How about learning to take an L for once in your life? I mean, that's the thing, is like most of people's lives are L's when they can't learn from their losses and learn from their ancestors' mistakes and learn from their own mistakes. They end up losers. They end up in the dustbin of history. I hate to see it. You hate to see it. We worked really hard to try and give them a shot over there in the Middle East, and look what they're doing with the place. Making it a terrible place to live, and terrible for all their neighbors, even poor Jordan. Hate to see it. Kind of sad seeing all the foresters whose multi-decade careers enriching people's lives are now subject to termination, and they've been protecting some of our most valuable resources. A lot of them are crying online, listing how many decades they've been working, seeing all the pictures and evidence of their hard work, all the good people that they've helped enrich nature. And like, legitimately, if this is going to pan out as Elon Musk and Donald Trump, which you can't have two monarchs. You can't have two monarchs, you can't have two monarchs, you can't have two monarchs. You cannot exercise supreme sovereign power. You cannot serve two masters. That doesn't make any sense. So I've heard Trump say that he likes green, he likes things to not be desert, he likes things to be vibrant and healthy. But then you got Elon, who has a record of destruction to get the resources that his cars use, lithium, and his ancestors have a record of destruction to get emeralds that are like aesthetic. So for years now, I've hated, passively despised the Elon humping. It's not a viable strategy to give all your power to somebody who has had sycophants blowing smoke up his ass for years. But as I said on last episode, he's in there, he's in charge. Hope the best for the country. But you really hate to see it. Now, people are concerned that Social Security is going to get cut down. I think that Trump is genuinely going to prevent that from happening. But things are transpiring every single day. And Trump doesn't need to win re-election, and if he can consolidate enough power, then he doesn't necessarily need to serve his voters. The only hope is that he wants to serve his voters. The only hope is that he doesn't have people lying to him like some scheming court eunuch to try and get themselves decades and decades and decades of power and wealth, but instead to look at the fact that his life is getting shorter and shorter and that he should strive for his legacy. There's also the thing where they're lying about China having a Neuralink, which is a complete and utter lie. They're lying about UFOs, they're lying about underground crafts, just lies. And then you could have Elon Musk whispering falsehoods in Trump's ear saying that he can make them live forever if they just get enough resources, which does not seem, in my opinion, I don't know for sure, but it does not seem, in my opinion, anywhere close to being developed. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Chinese emperors for a very long time have had this sort of problem. You got the scheming court eunuch and the alchemist saying that this mercury potion will make you live forever, and what does it do? It just messes everything up. Now, after that gun drone in Pennsylvania, one of Israel's greatest politicians, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, is under now reinvestigation for the suicide of his wife, who killed herself by stabbing herself in the back of the head 20 some odd times. So I hope he gets the electric chair. I hope he is legally found guilty and is summarily executed by hanging from the neck until dead. I genuinely hope that. anyone says to stuff like, you should go back to school in response to all this crap happening, in response to people losing their jobs and some people not taking it seriously, you are not helping. You are not helping if you think that, oh, if you just had a better schooling, you're literally telling people you should be brainwashed instead of convinced through my arguments. You should go back and be brainwashed and not have control over your schedule so that you can agree with me. How about putting forth a good argument that there's nothing better for your health and mental well-being than enjoying nature, and people will get more and more allergic and more sickly the more they spend time in artificial alchemized areas. We already know this for a 100% fact. So, get off that subject. 300 is the ultimate neoliberal, regime change, forcible feminist movie for the turn of the millennia. The reason why is that the king had the right to lead his army as commander-in-chief in Sparta, but the sovereignty of the nation was ceded to the female-dominated Senate, you see. And what do you have in Sparta that you don't see a lot recorded in other civilizations? You have like super aggressive, forcible abortions and child killings. And even in the movie 300, they depict somebody with birth defects as a traitor, sellout, like genuinely like warped beyond recognition, like thalidomide baby style. And in reality, what would they do is they would just take, babies they suspected of being weak and just huck them off the cliffs instead of giving them a shot. Which is probably not even an accurate, probably genuinely not an accurate way of determining weak baby, strong baby, using these weird augurs and fortune telling on the baby. But they had a very feminist society. You can even see this in the movie, and they had abortion. So it's the perfect neoliberal movie, and all they did was kill Muslims. You know what I'm saying? If you only learn biology online, you'd probably assume women experience menopause at 25. Because you got these freaks, absolute creepy freaks, obsessed with calling any woman that's like over the age of 25 a no-egger. Crazy. Genuinely crazy. One of these days, we're going to fix that. One of these days, the people who say that will be laughed out of the room. But not today. We got to work on that a little bit. They who choose their sovereign do it not of fear of the sovereign, but of fear of one another. You will not convince people who have voted in a separate political party than you that they made the wrong decision. They are still and continuously more afraid of you than they are of that particular person, even if you hold tremendously less power. This has been the case for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years. Dissolve the social contract through anarcho-communism. People act without morals? Shocked Pikachu face. .mp4. MP3. Here's a wild thought. A vast majority of non-produce plants don't rot at the same rate. They don't rot their seeds. But we've cultivated some plants for high yield, and the microbes like that high yield just as we like that high yield. They eat it up. They eat up their seeds, too. They rot their seeds. I hate to see it, but it's the way things are, and I genuinely don't think that because our gut microbes love them more, the microbes outside of our guts love them more, so you'll never be able to GMO non-rotting fruit. It's not happening. Not around the corner. You can GMO it to be more ancient, probably. Kind of skip decultivating it, and then it'll rot less. But you're not going to be able to combine the whole gigantic foods, which only hit a certain ceiling, hard-locked ceiling, by which the stems and the roots can transfer and hold up these particular fruits. You see the same thing that people ran into with weed. They have to grow them in just gigantic nylon nets so that they don't break their stems because they've just been GMO'd so hard that like these big fruits of flowers, and a fig and a passion flower is an inverted fruit is an inverted flower, by the way. Sorry, I keep sniffing. I've been a little sick over the last couple of days. I hope that doesn't bug anybody getting picked up by the microphone. I should really sniff off off the microphone. Sniff off your mom's butt. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Forget what I just said. We're trying to keep it civil. Right? City man has been here. How could you tell? Trail of styrofoam and plastic. Here's the kicker. You can make any vehicle annoying, but you can't make rice rockets not annoying. There's the kicker. There's your sign. You know, Celtic and Semitic admixtures combined, they make some really silly looking phrenologies, let me tell you. Curly hair, gaunt and drawn faces. You know, the Celtic people, they tend to have a button nose with a recessed bridge. It's very common. It's an almost surefire tell for somebody with Celtic blood is that they have a button nose. You can still kind of see the nostrils poking out of, and a recessed bridge. That is very common. It's almost impossible to find somebody with high Celtic admixture that doesn't have those traits. Call it a button nose. The girl I was crush on in Kiwi Farms had a button nose. And a butt was cute too. Yeah, the Semitic has a high bridge with a more beak shape. You combine that, it can be a real honker, let me tell you. But anyways, that's good for today. Hope everyone has a lovely evening, day, morning, whenever you're watching this. Take care.